I just better let us know where we're going.
Next in line, Chair.
I think it went okay at the end, but it was interesting. It was a bit twitchier.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone has to leave.
I call this meeting to order for the December 18th, 2025 regular meeting of the City Council of Fowl River. Take a moment to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territories of the Willamette people who have lived here since time immemorial. First order of business would be to adopt the agenda. Would somebody like to move the agenda?
So moved.
Isaacson, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Any additions or all those in favor of accepting the agenda circulate? Any opposed? That's very unanimous. We have no public and statutory hearings. The next item is for public input period. And there's quite a number of items that people could address. Public today. Anyone who wants to make a public comment, go ahead. And when you show up, just let me know which item on the agenda you're speaking to, whatever number it is, 13-1 or. Go ahead and have 2 minutes.
Hello, it's my name is Susan Young, and I'm president of the QPA, Cathette Pickleball Association, and I'm speaking in regard to item 13.4 regarding a facility on the city-owned Timber Lane property. Thank you to city staff for their timely work on the report attached to the minutes for this meeting. Staff calls for a lease of the Timber Lane property and detailed due diligence of QPA. QPA accepts a lease arrangement and welcomes a due diligence process. This process can begin immediately, and we ask that it not be restricted to the Timber Lane property. QPA believes that Timber Lane may not be the best site, and that the complex site that we've talked about before should be considered by council as a location for our new facility. Consideration of the complex site was requested in a QPA delegation before council and in a QPA letter to council dated November 6, 2025, as attached to the agenda of council November 20th, 2025. We ask that the council broaden the recommendation in the report for due diligence and that this recommendation not be restricted to Timber Lane and include city-owned property such as the complex. We also ask that the city reconstitute or reconvene the mayor's standing committee on city-owned properties for a pickleball facility so that the standing committee can properly consider the complex site as a location for the QPA facility. The prior mandate of the committee reads to recommend to council at the August 21st council meeting a prioritized list of up to 2 city-owned properties for leasing at a nominal rate to the Cathette Pickleball Association to facilitate the build of enclosed pickleball courts. We note that the committee recommended the lease of only one property, the Timber Lane property. In committee, objections to the complex site were noted. QPA has disputed some of these objections set out in the letter of November 6, 2025. These objections have not been previously explored or verified. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone online? Any? Next item is the consent agenda. Of items in the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Ivan. Councillor Pond. Is that something you want to remove or you second? Move anything? Those in favor of the consent agenda? Any opposed? Carried unanimous. Legislative matters. Proposed solid waste bylaw. Solid waste collection. Really.
Thank you. Chair.
You wanna move the motion?
Yeah, I move that the City of Powell River Municipal Solid Waste Collection Bylaw number 2784, 2025 be adopted. Yeah, so this was our bylaw where we had to change our rates to incorporate the new costs that are coming out for this year. And that was mainly driven by the tipping fees that have raised our fees. So that's what this is.
Previous committee of the whole meeting held 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of information disseminated that day, so interested, I'd like to take a closer look at that. Thank you, Chair.
All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Dot 2, agreement to supply Petroleum. Director of Interim.
Thank you. Good evening. So we actually have our Director of Infrastructure who started Monday. His name's Mark Rowland. So he was here yesterday, but not here this evening. So happy to, through the chair, happy to talk about the report for decision for the fuel supply for the next 2 years with an optional 1-year extension based on mutual agreement. We went out for requests for quotations recently for the supply of petroleum for the city fleet. Petroleum typically would use that in all our vehicles and equipment, small engines, light duty vehicles, fire trucks, buses, and heavy equipment. So the bids are based on, we received 2 bids. They're based on the rack price or the wholesale price plus an adder to get the fuel delivered up to Powell River to us. In comparing the 2 quotes, we've got one from Parkland Columbia and one from Petro Value as well. So Parkland is our current supplier, and they are the least expensive bidder as well. I will say in talking to staff, we haven't had any issues with the vendor in the last 3 years at all. And they come on time when asked if we're in a jam and need extra fuel. And have been providing good service as of the last 3 years. I talked to the manager at Parkland, and they're happy to continue serving our community if council so chooses their bid. And the price tag for the year is typically about $604,000 is what we spend in fuel between all our vehicles. That's everything that moves or has pistons. And that's typically the price tag for what we pay in a year. It's probably slightly cheaper than it was last year. I will say also that the costing or the pricing, the adder that we pay is almost exactly the same as it was on the previous bid or what we're paying now kind of thing. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, Chair. One question I have with the movement of some of the fleet to electric, is this amount a purchase agreement that requires a specific amount to be spent, or if we require less because of other fuel options like electric, we pay less.
Yes, through the chair, you are correct. We do pay less if we use less. Absolutely.
Key Chair. So it looks like they do a set price throughout the entire contract and it doesn't fluctuate as the pump prices fluctuate. These stay the same.
Through the chair, the way it works is it's set on the rack rate in Vancouver. So that's a rate that's just a base rate and it fluctuates. So it goes up and down throughout the year. What we pay in addition to that is a delivery charge and the charge for the fuel to get to us kind of thing. So it does vary throughout the year. What we see here is a snapshot in time based on the rack rate at that given time. So it does fluctuate throughout the year. As we know, fuel prices go up and down, but it's based on a rack rate in Vancouver, and then our adder is added on to that, and that's what we pay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I almost thought Councillor Isaacson was going to ask this question, but she asked it with a different spin. I was curious, I guess, with our push towards more electric vehicles. I pulled up the report from 2 years ago when we last discussed this in around this time, 2023. And I'm seeing here in that report, the gasoline liters per the year was 126,000, was roughly the quoted number, and now we're at 103,000. So is it safe to say that we're actually effectively using less due to our increase in electric vehicles?
Through the chair, I would say we're definitely using less. So we've got 3 electric vans now and 2 electric pickup trucks and 2 electric cars. So I think at that time we didn't have that full complement. So we're definitely using less gasoline.
Sometime. Idling of vehicles. I believe we have seen it. That. And that reduce overall on a year. Picture.
Any other questions? It's recommended.
I will, Chair. I move that the City of Powell River enter into a new 2-year agreement with an option to extend for 1 year with Parkland Corporation operating as Columbia Fuels for the supply of petroleum based on the quote received December 1, 2025.
Any opposed? Very good.
Thank you.
We have no unfinished business tonight. The following committee recommendation. Suitability of city-owned stations to be used as warming centers and extreme weather. From the committee of all meetings.
I move that council direct staff to activate city space in partnership with community partners to open a warming center or extreme weather response shelter, and if necessary, that staff amend the license of occupation with the Catholic Coalition to End Homelessness for the Duncan Street Bylaw building. Yeah, just to speak to it briefly, we had a pretty robust conversation on Tuesday. Without having a dedicated shelter space in this community, we're kind of reaching crisis time with the weather. And this is intended to give staff the tools to work with community partners to activate city space if necessary. That could include council chambers, the rec complex, the bylaw building. I wanted to note that although this motion references the Coalition to End Homelessness and the Duncan Street building, that's only intended to be there in case that ends up being the most suitable space and the Coalition to End Homelessness is amenable to amendments. That's just meant to be there as an in-case clause. I know that none of the options that the city has in terms of city spaces are perfect, and most of them are not even great or good. But if the goal is for the 5 to 10 nights per year when we meet a cutoff to open an extreme weather response shelter or a warming center, that we have planned ahead with a space to do that. Unfortunately, if this passes, it still requires time to get things up and running. But I hope that in the spirit of trying to, the purpose of this motion is to keep people alive. It's not to keep people healthy. It's just literally to keep people alive when the temperatures drop or the snow accumulates. And so I hope that council passes this motion. I do want to apologize for on Tuesday. I drew specific attention to the faith community, and I think, obviously, if you heard me on Tuesday, I have just a broader sense of frustration and with the situation in general, and not particularly with any one person or group or organization. I just, in order to move things forward, it's easier when buildings on land that's already zoned institutional participate, and a large proportion of institutional buildings in our community are churches and houses of worship. And so that's my thinking. But I hope the community can pull together to find some solutions, and that a suitable partner can help make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Assuming this motion passes today, I imagine staff will be making some phone calls here and there to help in this process. Someone had mentioned to me in passing on Tuesday, just sharing some options, some that we had already discussed, but one that came up was actually provincial buildings. And while we don't have that many in town, we do have a provincial court that, I don't know, it's the province's mandate to cover housing, so it might be worth the phone call to see if the province is willing to use their own space to help out. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Chair. And through the chair, I'll try to speak into my microphone so everyone can hear. First of all, we did have a lengthy discussion a couple of days ago in this regard. We were going to follow up that discussion tonight with a couple of other items and suggestions and that may have come forward. My question is to the staff. Some of the suggestions that were made on Tuesday, were any follow-ups done to those suggestions, and did we find out any information, further information in any regard?
The chair, thanks for the question. And yes, there was follow-up with the Cathette Coalition to End Homelessness in regards to the Duncan Street building. And at this point in time, the Cathette Coalition to End Homelessness does not have the resources or ability to move forward with that. We also reached out to LIFT to touch base with them. Again, a key portion of what we're trying to do here is to partner with community groups, and these are the two that jump to mind right off the hop. Good conversation with LIFT, and I think that there is an opportunity to potentially partner with them for extreme weather response. Specifically, we're going to be looking at Dwight Hall and the former library portion of Dwight Hall, and investigating whether that'll be suitable or not. There may be other options that we can look at as well. Part of the challenge is that, as was mentioned at the last meeting, there's a time constraint and some work required by this community group before we can even move forward. So staff are going to start by meeting with them tomorrow to try to get something in process before the holidays. The other thing that staff did was to reach out to the regional district to see if the regional district could play a role in this. The answer was that they do not play a role in it, and their interpretation of emergency does not, at this point, include heat or cold items. It's interesting because a lot of other regional districts, through their emergency program, do provide that service. So I think it's something to look into further moving forward, especially since the city provides half the funding for that particular service. I don't think there's anything else that we were able to look into too much further beyond that, but there are a few options that we're looking into. the key is, again, that we're going to be looking to partner with other organizations to be able to pull this through. So we really rely on sort of how that will play out.
Yes, then just to follow that up, Chair, through the chair, appreciate the information. Certainly not overjoyed with Dwight Hall, which is an historic building in our community that has some tremendous value and community use. I'm not happy about that suggestion. So I've received emails on a couple of other possibilities, and I'm just going to express them here for further follow-up, and that is, one, the lift building that they own on Marine overlooking the ferry dock. The bottom floor of that building, I don't believe is occupied. And considering last year this was 12 nights in total, that's something that should possibly be looked at since there is heat in the building and a number of cots could be set up right under lift's supervision. And the other suggestion that came forward is something along the lines of an ATCO trailer up near our yard where the kitchen is presently that we provide, extending those hours so that people could have a cot to sleep on, blankets to keep warm. That is another possibility, but I'd like to pursue anything along that line that we do not have to turn our Dwight Hall into that type of facility. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Chair. The CAO just answered my question, which was going to be about the regional emergency plan and responsibility for particularly cold at this time, but also heat later. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Elliott, I thought you might have something to say.
Well, you looked at me with your Santa eyes and I decided I didn't want to break your heart.
Oh, ho, ho.
I really appreciate the staff looking into the parts that they have looked into, and I support wholeheartedly moving forward with partners to try and make sure that we don't have anyone freeze to death in our community. And I know there has to be a solution out there, and if this motion helps enable us to get there, I'm in favor of the motion. And so I'm just thanking everybody for helping us to move forward.
For a second time speaker, so right after Santa, to follow Santa Claus. So first off, I want to thank staff for looking into availability. And what we're really looking at is city controlled properties, because what we need, we can't demand that a property owner, any other property owner in the city, provide property at their own expense to provide an emergency warming center. We just can't do that. But what's available in the emergency situation that we find ourselves in is looking for facilities that the city has that are capable of holding cots for 20 people, that have 2 bathrooms, so we provide that minimal level of safety, and are properly zoned so that we don't have to do zoning applications. Zoning applications take a long time. We have a process to go through. They don't happen usually in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. They take a long time. If we're going to lease a property to someone else to put a building on, just the leasing can take as many as 3 or 4 months to negotiate a lease between that individual group and the city. And if you're putting a building there, there's purchasing a building, delivering a building, getting building permits, doing inspections, all of those things. And none of those things are going to happen before the end of January, February, when the cold season does happen. And if we're going to get 10 or 12 days of snap cold weather that people need to shelter from, those long-term efforts aren't going to work for this year. So we're looking for a place like the Dwight Hall is one. It would be nice to have a better piece of property that someone in the community would offer up and say they have space. We don't have that. So here we go. And what we're trying to do, and I just want to clarify the language, is create an emergency cold weather shelter. That is a place where as many as 20 people can show up, find a cot and a bathroom, and get out of the rain and the snow, and for 10 to 20 days a year. Very different than a warming center. Warming center, and we have one on Duncan Street, is a small space, open for limited hours. People can't sleep there. It has to close before midnight. I think that 10 o'clock is more like the time it has to close. And there was a considerable effort in negotiating the lease for that property to allow people to be there and not sleep there for the time that they're open. So I want to thank staff for the work that they've done. And I truly hope that we can put something together to take care of the emergency so people aren't sleeping outside in the cold for 10 or 12 days. And maybe in the meantime, between now and next year, you can find something more permanent. Councillor Isaacson, second time speaker.
Thank you. Just 2 items of clarity. While we were talking about Dwight Hall as a building, I think city staff in particular are looking at part of the downstairs portion, the old library, so not the upstairs hall. So just clarity what we mean by when we're talking about Dwight Hall, if that ends up being the most suitable option. And also the Duncan Street Bylaw building that the Coalition to End Homelessness operates is not a warming center, which is something that the provincial government helps supports reimburses cities for when they do it officially. It is a drop-in center. Their lease goes until midnight, but because of the limitations of volunteers, they're usually only open until 8 or 10 p.m., depending on the night. So just a bit of clarity on those 2 items. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? It's carried unanimously. Exciting news, the 2026 Council and Committee of the Whole meeting schedule. Like, guide us through the plan.
Thank you, Chair. So we've set out a schedule for you a proposed schedule for you for next year. Taking into consideration one of the biggest impediments to having a regular schedule being the 2026 general local election scheduled for October 17th of 2026. The other consideration, as we always do, is taking into account potential conflicts with the regional district meeting schedule. So consultations were had in that respect. And the calendar that you see in front of you, as well as the schedule, includes intended dates for budget meetings, either as part of the regular meeting or on a couple of occasions, dedicated new dates, particularly the 29th of January and February 26th. The other items on there, just sticking with budget, we've also included an anticipated first draft of next year's iteration of the 5-year financial plan for November 26th. The inaugural meeting for the new council will be November 5th, and the first regular meeting 2 weeks later on the 19th. Regular convention activities are noted as well, and hopefully this schedule meets with council's approval. The usual breaks in summer and at the beginning of we're not showing 20. So yeah, open to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Take Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. So I'm struggling to remember the QRD, and I know you've said you've consulted with them, but did you consult specifically on the extra days, the 29th of January and the 26th of February? Because I do recall we sometimes have QRD meetings on Thursday, sometimes too. But I don't know for sure because I don't have that schedule in front of me.
Do, Chair, because I was curious myself, and I looked at the QRD's last meeting, and the special meetings did not conflict with what the QRD had voted on last week.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping me. And I was there, right?
Well, I knew you'd do your homework. You always do on the schedule.
Uh,
Any other questions? Councillor Alameda?
Chair, the staff was going to speak.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just going to confirm what Councilor Mita said. And we did actually move one of the dates for the February 26th in order to align with the regional district schedule.
Thank you.
Councillor Alameda?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do appreciate staff's effort in putting this all together, and I know it's not easy balancing between the two governments, but the last 2 years have been very well done. My only concern when I first saw this was centered around July 1, as we do have a committee of the whole meeting on the 30th of June and then a council meeting on July 2nd. And I understand that the QRD is meeting the following week, which is probably why we didn't take the following week of July. So I'm not planning on being anywhere, so I have no problem attending, but I do know it's a time of the year that people go away. So I just wanted to put it out there for council, and if there was enough of an interest to make a change, then we can. If not, then we'll let it be.
Make the motion in the package.
Councillor Isaac, any discussion on the schedule in the package? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Now, 13.2 is 2026 acting mayor rotation for corporate officer.
Thank you, Chair. We've pretty much followed the usual course in terms of going alphabetically and going from it would have originally started in November of 2022. So we stop at the end of October, and November and December are still to be determined following the election. I don't have anything else to add, I don't think.
Any questions from council? Councillor Fong.
Yes, sir, Chair. I just want to say, corporate officer, I want to thank you for a fine job because there are very few changes. The fine work you've done here to outline our procedures in the past, very consistent, and I applaud you on your fine work. Thank you very much.
Councillor Alameda.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to put a motion forward for future council in November next year that should he be reelected, it'd be required in procedure bylaw that Councillor Doubt operate and chair the final meeting in December all years moving forward.
Actually move the motion in the package.
Seconder. Councillor Allen. Any discussion? Those in favor of the meeting schedule? Any opposed? Yeah. Acting mayor rotation schedule. All those in favor? Any opposed? Another unanimous agreement. 13.3 alignment of medical service responses with fire protection master plan. Mr. Fire Chief.
Good evening, Acting Mayor, members of council. The report before you tonight is to present information to council regarding current service levels of the fire department responses to medical call requests from BC Ambulance, and to confirm direction from council on the level of service council wants the fire department to provide for these responses. This report is supplemental to information contained within the Fire Protection Master Plan, Section 12.3, and was presented to council at the November 20th regular council meeting. As some background, in 1989, the provincial government created the First Responder Program. This was in response to recommendations from the Chief Coroner Vince Kane's report. The primary objective of that program was to enhance continuity of patient care throughout the province during pre-hospital emergencies. This was in response to calls where patients had died or there were negative outcomes due to delayed or inconsistent BC Ambulance service, and as well as to address inconsistent fire department training. Over the past several years, structural changes to the provincial ambulance service has resulted in a substantial shift in the workload of the fire service. And this report speaks to a proposed new level of service for responses for Powell River Fire Rescue to BC ambulance dispatched events. For other jurisdictions, I just wanted to give you a recent, as of this year, there are several fire departments across British Columbia that have transitioned away from full medical care response models, to ensure efficient and sustainable fire department service delivery. Port Alberni responds currently to purple and reds. Nanaimo currently responds to purple and reds. Victoria has moved to strictly purples only. Tofino has implemented a 1-year hold on the first responder program, and they'll evaluate through that year and try again in 2026 or 2027, sorry. And Qualicum Beach currently responds to purples and red calls on delay. So they'll do a 15-minute delay before they respond the fire department. These examples demonstrate a province-wide trend towards prioritizing the high acuity calls for the fire department and reducing the involvement of the fire department in low acuity medical calls. This approach aligns with the Fire Protection Master Plan's recommendations as noted, and focuses the resources on life-saving interventions while minimizing operational strain and financial burden on the municipality. PRF, Powell River Fire Rescue, is actively engaging with BC Ambulance regional staff, regional managers. They've had several meetings over the last month with regards to use of fire department on those calls. The manager, who I just spoke to the other day, is indicating that they will try and increase the reliance on kilo car staff. So the ambulance uses phonetics to label their calls or their call signs, Alpha, Bravo, Kilo, and Sierra. So their kilo car is normally their part-time car. So they're working in the background as well to try and prioritize the critical response model and utilize their own staff for the low acuity stuff. Available for questions if you have it.
Yeah. Any questions? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Drakely, the motion indicates that we would make this effective tomorrow. And so my question, I guess, is if we are responding differently tomorrow than we are today, has all of the dispatch and other folks involved that would need to know that already in the loop, even though we haven't gone to council yet, or how does that work?
Yeah, our dispatch has been in the loop for the last week or so. I've spoken to management, or BC Ambulance management, who's spoken to their dispatch. So there's not much of a change for BC Ambulance dispatch during COVID. They completely shut the door to medicals for the fire department just because they couldn't control the exposure during the pandemic. So they're prepared for that inevitability. A lot of departments utilize the higher acuity ones, like the purples only, so they can continue and complete training, inspections, pre-planning, the higher operationally needed jobs within the fire department.
And then just as part of the motion, the last and talks about council formally advocating for provincial government and BC Emergency Health Services for sustained investment in local pre-hospital care. While I would definitely want to advocate for that, and we have been advocating at a lot of levels, what would the difference be for formally advocating, and is that actually going to help us, or do we specifically need to come forward with actions after that, such as resolutions to UBCM or what have you? Or is that an actual commitment to do something different than we've already been doing? And if so, what?
I can't advocate for better service within the city. That I believe that would be something that council could do through UBCM or other means.
Mm-hmm.
They do have, I believe, 2 full-time cars and 1 part-time car, and the addition of a 3rd full-time car to respond to the volume of calls within the region. If one unit is in the regional district somewhere responding to a call. They have to deal with that patient, bring them back to the hospital, and then free themselves up for another call. While another ambulance is out doing another call. And if there's only one ambulance due to staffing shortages, they could be outside of the region, and that holds the fire department once they've made patient contact for an extended period of time.
Okay, so thank you.
Councillor Isaacson.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to staff, I'm wondering if there is a rationale to recommend that option A rather than the option with the 15-minute delay. What's the distinction, and why would one be recommended over the other for their red calls?
We've discussed this at our operations level with the association, and it was it's mentioned in the master plan. So this falls in line. We didn't want to stray too far from the master plan. That's why I added the 4 other options in there, even status quo.
Yeah.
Just to be able to provide more than normal. But this falls in line with the fire protection master plan.
Anyone else? Councillor Palm.
Yes, thank you, Chair. One question that came to mind, somebody at some point, I believe it was the police, relayed the fact that when an injured individual is taken to the hospital, at one point they were required to stay with that individual at the hospital. Does the same apply to our police or ambulance crews?
I know this is anecdotal, but I know that when ambulance crews bring patients in, they are required to do a handover. And if hospital staff are busy, that's where the ambulance gets held up. So if it's a busy night in emerge and they don't have a nurse to hand them over to, that transition doesn't happen until they can triage the patient, which holds the ambulance crew there. So
just wanted to clarify, you know, you've got a tough job. Thank you very much, Chair.
Anyone else? No. I've got a couple of questions. First, one thing is we're changing the level of service from the fire department right now, and we don't have the ability to control, as a city council, the other half of the equation, the BC ambulance services. We don't have any tools other than lobbying to control how the BC ambulance service replies. And I'm looking at the purple, red, orange, yellow, etc. And I'm wondering if there couldn't be a route or an option that included the orange level responses, which are still called the hot code. And orange is urgent, potentially serious, but not immediately life-threatening.
Yeah.
The next level down is yellow, which is non-urgent, not serious or life-threatening. And instead of having the cutoff at between red and orange, that the cutoff be between orange and yellow, which lowers the level of seriousness. And the reason I'm suggesting that is I'm thinking that people might think that this is a reduction in service from the fire department. And I would be happier with that if it wasn't as big a reduction, and if we had control of the ambulance service and could say, we need more ambulance drivers and more ambulance calls to be able to respond. But I'm concerned about those people who get caught in the middle, and the danger that one of the people who is not classified as high enough will end up with serious consequences from what seemed like not a serious call to the emergency call line.
if I can comment, Chair, given time and seriousness, the calls escalate from green to yellow to orange to red to purple. So once it hits that red line, and again, that's dependent on ambulance staffing and availability. But once it hits that red line, then we're responding anyways. So we will get there, but it's just a matter of time.
I guess part of that, and it's always going to be part of the emergency dispatch,
Correct.
is a lot of it is going to depend on what is said by the person calling emergency dispatch and what they pick up from what they're being told.
If I can, anecdotally, again, I was approached at Julie's, and an elderly gentleman was quite frustrated because he had waited over an hour for an ambulance for his wife with a broken hip. But the broken bones don't hit that high acuity mark, even though they're painful. that they still reside in the orange until enough time goes by. So,
Any other questions? Councillor Palm.
Chair, you brought up an important point on not a great reduction on the number of calls and the people that don't have the report before them. Just looking at the numbers here, just the red and purple calls alone, not up to over 650 calls to attend to on an annual basis. That's over 75% of their calls in total. So just want the public to be aware. Thank you.
Would you like to make the motion that we have? Councillor Southcott. It's a long one, so I'm going to ask you to read it. So
Right, I will.
everybody knows what we're doing.
I move that council endorse the development and implementation of a high acuity, red and purple only medical response level of service for the Powell River Fire Rescue as follows. Commencing December 19, 2025, Powell River Fire Rescue is directed to limit their medical service responses to purple and red coded BC Emergency Health Services dispatch events as defined in the BC Ambulance Clinical Response Model, and that Powell River Fire Rescue be directed to coordinate with BCEHS to support a smooth operational integration of the new level of service and to be provided by Powell River Fire Rescue for medical responses, and the Powell River Fire Rescue be directed to work with the manager of partnerships, intergovernmental and public relations to ensure that the public understands the adjustment to the medical response level of service, emphasizing the continued efficient response of Powell River Fire Rescue to emergency medical calls as laid out in the Fire Protection Master Plan or as directed by Council, and that Powell River Fire Rescue monitor service outcomes of the new medical response service level and report back to Council after 1 year, and that Council formally advocate to the provincial government and BCEHS for sustained investment in local pre-hospital care. I'd like to make some comments if I could.
Sure. Councillor. Any of that? Go ahead, Councillor Southcott.
Thank you. Just a few thoughts. I totally support this. Probably the most pertinent thought in the front of my mind right now is that the dispatch center that dispatches ambulance calls has existed for, I don't know, decades and decades. The current system that's used was developed about 35 years ago. It's called the Medical Priority Dispatch System. It actually has between 700 and 800 different response categories broken down into the 5 major categories that are color-coded now. Dispatch, I just, in case anybody listening isn't aware, 6 years ago I retired from BC Ambulance after a career with them. One of the critical things about dispatching is that any call can be upgraded. So as the chief mentioned, if there's any doubt in a dispatcher's mind, they'll flag a call and then call back in a certain predetermined amount of time, or according to the judgment of the dispatcher. At that point, a call would be reassessed and could be upgraded. If it was upgraded from orange to red, then a fire truck would be dispatched if there was an ambulance wasn't available. So it's an extremely complex but very efficient and long. It went through many amendments over the years that I was directed by it. So I have real faith in that system. It's been improved a lot. Another thing is that over the years I watched as there was a sliding kind of, I hate to be cynical, but anybody who can get out of work will definitely do it, including the province. And there can tend to really be an increasing slow leaning on local fire departments to take up the slack that BC Ambulance leaves. And that's been decades long in its, this has happened for decades. Most recently here, about 4 years ago, there was a very significant change in staffing levels. My predecessor, to the time I was chief here, fought for a long time to try to get a 4th ambulance. We characteristically used the 3rd ambulance as an operational ambulance, which was against BC Ambulance policy. You're always supposed to have a spare and not actually use it as an operational vehicle, but we did use it. And so we upstaffed that 3rd ambulance, even though we only had 2 characteristically, and only one of them was theoretically fully staffed. What's there now? So we had 4 full-time people and about a dozen part-timers, as it's called, but they're casuals and they're highly dedicated. Call volumes have increased a lot since then, but now we have, that ambulance station has 16 2 fully staffed 24/7 ambulances, and one that's supposed to be staffed. So that would be a 3rd staffed ambulance responding on pagers. So a 5 to 10 minute delay before the ambulance actually rolls out of the station. The fact that our local fire department is utilized as much as it is, I really feel that it should be very safe for this change in dispatch. As it's mentioned in the chief's report, this is really only a decrease of a bit over 20% of responses. The thing that really concerns me is watching crews get worn out, and it's detailed in the report here as to the risk factors there. And this is at the most base level, a cost to the city and to city taxpayers. But more importantly, it's a cost to the department itself in terms of wear and tear on staff. And then there's another factor here, and that's balance. We want our local firefighters to remain as experienced as possible. And that means having a continual amount of exposure to these kind of calls so that they stay fresh. And that's really important. You don't use it, you lose it. So I really support this gradual rollback. I can see why Victoria has rolled right back to purple responses, only because the dispatch, ambulance dispatch, at a drop of a hat, can call them up and say, well, we've just raised that red level response you didn't respond to a purple. And that could happen here too, but this is, I think, a very conservative and very smart approach to this, and I wholeheartedly support it. So I just wanted to add those comments. It's really quite a complex situation. I have real appreciation for Chief Drakely and the amazing job I see he's done to look after this department. And I really feel we're moving forward and doing it in a very substantial way. And like I said, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? So all those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Here we are at 13.4. Cathett Pickleball Association city-owned Timber Lane property. Manager of City Development.
Good evening, Acting Mayor and Council. I'm here to provide a summary of the report regarding the Cathett Pickleball Association and the Timber Lane property. Council had previously directed staff to examine the potential sale or lease of this property to the QPA for the construction and operation of an indoor pickleball facility. The property was granted to the city from the Crown in 1974 and is encumbered with a proviso restricting use of the land to park purposes. Any sale of the property would require approval of the Crown and include a lengthy and costly process with an uncertain outcome. For these reasons, staff do not recommend a sale of the property. A long-term lease is permitted, provided that public serving recreation and a park-like character is maintained. The site's land use designation and zoning align with the proposed use. The site is serviced by 3 bus routes, and city services are available from the road dedication. For these reasons, staff consider the property to be a suitable candidate for the proposed use. Whenever the city leases land to an external organization, there's an inherent level of risk that must be carefully considered to protect public assets, manage liability, and support long-term community benefit. These considerations become more important when the lessee is a volunteer-run organization. Volunteer-run organizations play an important and valued role in our community, and over time, they can experience fluctuations in funding, capacity, and governance. Entering into a long-term land lease with a volunteer-run organization to operate and maintain a large specialized recreational facility with a long life cycle will come with risk to the city. If the organization experiences challenges, the city will face public pressure to intervene, creating financial and operational exposure. Given the city's current budget constraints and broader pressure to maintain aging recreational assets, it's important to undertake a balanced assessment of the QPA's capacity and project plans before advancing any long-term land commitment. Accordingly, staff are recommending a due diligence process with the QPA to confirm project readiness and long-term organization sustainability. Thank you.
Okay, council, any questions? Councillor Palm.
Yeah, so Chair, so in terms of the report, yes, we did ask for this, and I am concerned that the amount of work that would be done on this one particular site would be quite extensive, taking up a lot of staff time. I know the association, the Pickleball Association, came forward at a committee of the whole meeting and was advocating for a relook of the rec complex at that point in time. And again, tonight, they're also asking for a further look in that direction. I think it would be wise for the and less costly for the city, instead of going whole hog on a due diligence report on this site at the moment, to reconvene as the working group with staff and with the pickleball and other members of the committee that got together previously, have an extensive communication as to what the possible forward avenues would be, and come to some agreement so that a report isn't done with everybody in whole support of the concept. So I would advocate that working group reconvene in the new year at some point when people can make it. We have that communication, that talk, and come up with some concrete ideas on a pathway forward. Thank you, Chair. If you want me to make that motion, I will do so.
Well, we're just in a question period right now, so if anybody wants to make any motion, we can wait till after everybody's done with their many questions, and then anybody wants to can make a motion. So, Councillor Elliott, questions?
Yeah, in light of the Pickleball Association coming before us twice to express an interest in a totally different site, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for this report. It tells us exactly what we need to do if we were going to move forward on this site, and it sounds like that would be the thing to do if we were all on board with this site to move forward. So I think it's a bit premature for this particular motion, and so I would support a motion to postpone it until after the committee could meet again and get a little more in sync with how we want to move forward. This doesn't constitute a report that indicates anything that would have to happen on a different site. It's just this site. And so I think the suggestion that Councillor Palm had for the committee to get back together and be all on the same page before looking at this motion again would be the right way to go.
No, I have discussion comments. I'll wait till a motion's been made. Thank you.
Any other questions? But you have a motion to make. Councillor Palm.
Yes, I haven't got anything in writing, so bear with me, Secretary, Madam Secretary, and we'll try to put something together here. So I will move that sometime postpone the present course of direction on a pickleball site and revisit through the working group that has been previously formed to have a further discussion on a pathway forward for a pickleball facility in the city of Powell River.
Have a seconder for that? Councillor Elliott seconds it. Any? Hang on a second. Councillor Palm, do you want to talk to the motion? You're the mover.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say other than I already have, but I'm happy to hear that some of council are receptive to this concept. It's very important that we all agree on the direction we're going before a great deal of work is done. So that's the reason for, and the ask from the Pickleball Association was such. So thank you, Chair. I think I've spoken loudly on motion.
Councillor Almeida.
Thank you, Chair. A couple questions for staff procedurally. The original pickleball committee, I might get the term backwards, I believe was the select committee by the mayor? Standing, thank you. So standing committee by the mayor that was created due to the a special, I guess, option that the mayor has. Seeing as the mayor is unable to be here today, I'm just curious, not that I'm opposed to Councillor Palm's motion, but is that out of order, I guess, was the question. Can any other councillor request to reinstate in a committee that's been folded?
Through the chair, I'm glad you brought that up because the committee no longer exists. It's been wrapped up. And I think the appropriate next step would be to ask staff whether or not we even have time for another committee to revisit a discussion that has already taken place, including the location, which has already been, from a staff perspective, at the complex, noted that is not appropriate. So I think a bigger conversation needs to take place about what this could look like moving forward. It's not as simple as just using the existing working group because it doesn't exist anymore.
All kinds of hands up. I'll let you finish what you were saying, because this is the time to debate the motion, actually.
Thank you.
You can talk about whether you support it or don't.
Or whether it's out of order.
Well, and the second question had to kind of go in line with that, because the staff request is to work with the pickleball committee and while, the pickleball association, while the motion specifically discusses the Timberlane property, based on what I understand from the report, staff is working with the association in a general terms on viability of the facility. So even if, should the mayor decide to, start up a new committee down the road, the conversation that staff is looking to have right now is still going to be needed, regardless if it's the Timberlane property or any other property in the city. Am I understanding that correctly?
Thank you. Through the chair, I would offer that site identification is a really key component to that due diligence process. It will heavily influence project costs and several other factors. So I would say that site identification is key before entering that process.
Thank you.
Isaacson, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair. I think, well, from my perspective, I feel like I'm unsure whether going back to committee, which, let alone the procedure to reform that committee, to me, the only purpose of that committee would be to restate the rationale why the rec complex site isn't suitable. And so to me, that process adds time and staff time and, a delay before coming back to a similar recommendation that's already been made. Like, I understand from the Cothet Pickleball Association's perspective that the rec complex site is the best site for them. I agree, it is. But in terms of the city and our governance and the future of recreation, our community, and the future of the site for civic purposes, that requires a bigger conversation and more opportunity for the broader community to have input on the use of that space. And so if the Pickleball Association wants to move fast, then I would support the original motion. But if that property is not suitable for them, then I think the only other option is to go slow. So I don't support this motion, not that I don't think more conversations would be helpful between the Pickleball Association and staff. But given the issue of it's not a working group, it was a standing committee, we can't choose to reconvene it. It's a mayor's prerogative. It just makes that a little bit more challenging. And I don't think that even if it were to reconvene, we would end up in a different place. We just will have wasted all of our time. I think the value in it would be in having conversations, but those conversations would happen with the original motion being passed. I don't think we need to veer away from that. I appreciate council's will to be supportive and be in conversation, but I don't think that we would necessarily get anywhere different than where we are today. Thank you.
Councillor Southcott.
Thank you, Chair. My thoughts are along the same lines as Councillor Isaacson's. I do recall various factors being discussed with regard to the complex site, but I think in my thinking and memory, the most significant factor is the need for planning to do with the complex site itself. The complex, specifically the complex site in general, and there are various factors that are involved there. So, and I believe that those conversations occurred before the Pickleball Association came to us about a month ago asking for a change of direction, at which time I thought, oh, this is kind of confusing. Not really confusing, perhaps a bit of a lack of communication, and I'm not pointing any fingers at any direction by making that comment. So when I think about planning in terms of my familiarity with what's going on with the complex, I think that process could go on for quite a long time. And that's the specific concern here, is if the Pickleball Association wants, like Councillor Isaacson spoke to move on this, and there was a repeated expression of urgency and correspondence to us, then that's not going to happen with the complex site. That's really quite clear, and the CAO's comments reminded me of that quite clearly. So I can't, in all good conscience, support this because I don't think that it really will end up anywhere except in the same discussion that I'm trying to have right here, right now. And so I guess thinking in terms of this, maybe any motion should be postponed until it's really clear what the Pickleball Association actually wants, and in terms of all these factors, and then perhaps we could consider the recommendation attached to this report that's presented to us tonight in January or whenever that's become more clear. That would seem to me to be the most logical course of at this point. So I'm not yet suggesting another motion because this motion's on the table, but I don't support this one. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. I agree with all of my colleagues. I think that, postponing until after a committee that no longer exists is probably not going to work. And we could probably call this motion out of order and contemplate another one that says to postpone until February or what have you. And the Pickleball Association, being in the room and hearing us, knows that we need some conversation to find out if this is what they actually want to do before we would approve this motion. And whatever conversations need to happen between folks could happen between now and then. I do have to say that there is no way to move quickly making a decision about a pickleball facility on the rec center lands. So that's a slower process altogether. So the association needs to really decide, do they want it at the rec center, which is maybe a longer term process and includes input from the broader community about what is the priority for our city lands in that rec center area. It's a city owned property that we generally own the facilities on, not lease them out or what have you. And we have a lot of undecided future for our current rec center and how that might be refurbished or rebuilt or not. And all of that comes with some planning, and none of that's going to happen quickly. Or do you want to look at a site that is maybe with less competing interests that we could move quickly on, which is the Timberlane site. And so that site is ideal because we don't have high competitive interests there. It is suitable for a pickleball facility and is already in an area that has running tracks and things that are operated by folks outside the city because we lease them out. And so it falls in line with our already existing planning, which makes it ideal for moving quickly. So I guess what I'm saying is that could we ask the chair to declare this motion out of order because the committee is no longer exists? And then maybe we could.
You want to ask that?
Yes, I do.
It would be easier if you just asked it, then I could tell you. I believe it's out of order to refer work to a committee that doesn't exist.
Okay, so that's a ruling.
So the motion is out of order.
Thank you. Could I make a new motion?
You've made a motion. I'd like to speak because I'm next on the list.
All right, carry on then.
Okay. So I've heard what everybody has to say. Everybody actually has said that they'd like to think about the two properties, the Timberlane properties and the rec center property. They'd like to do it in conjunction with the Pickleball Association to pick the right spot. I think the motion that is recommended in the kit entails considerable spending on a particular site and not another site. And I think just simply postponing this motion to a future date, say in January or February, would give the acting mayor, who I think can do it, or the mayor when he comes back, the opportunity to reconvene a committee to look into this and do it all and just take a step back and make sure we're spending our money on studying the place where everybody wants the facility to go if we ever get to it. So that's my 2 bits worth. Councillor Elliott?
I was just going to make a motion to postpone this until February, at which time we'll have more clarity and information about whether we're moving forward this motion or something else.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Palm, any discussion? Councillor Palm.
Yeah, so through the chair, we've learned a great deal here tonight. One, from a staff perspective, the complex site is not suitable. I'm off the table at this point. However, having discussed this issue before it came to the table here with one of the reps from the Ball Association, they are not fully committed to the site that's being proposed here tonight. And even if the rec complex is out of the question, they would like to explore all possibilities, not just this particular one. So as Councillor Dowd has pointed out, I don't want to spend a great deal of money on a study that not everybody's buying into. So I fully support a postponement. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 17 years sitting here, nothing gets accomplished without dialogue, communication in a respectful manner so that everybody can get on board with the conclusion that comes forward. Thank you, Chair. I'll look forward to the future discussion.
Anyone else? Councillor Isaacson.
I have a question for the motion that's on the table. It references when we have more information. What information are you referring to, or what information is referred to in the motion?
Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I didn't put that in the motion. That was kind of speaking to the motions. I apologize. The motion was to postpone this until February. My expectation is stuff will happen between now and then that will provide us more information about whether pickleball wants to move forward with this site or something else. And that would happen through dialogue, but isn't part of the motion.
So based on the answer to that question, I feel, so I think in terms of what direction staff are getting from this motion, to me, it would seem to do nothing unless Pickleball Association approaches staff to let them know that they are okay with pursuing Timber Lane, or they are not, and they are, want to start things up over again. I'm maybe through the chair to staff, what do you see as being staff action as a result of this motion after it passes, or if it passes?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I think I could probably place a good bet that the members of the QPA would reach out to me to have some discussion with respect to next steps.
Thank you.
Any more hands up? So all those in favor of the motion to postpone? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. So thanks for all your, I want to thank staff for all their work. It's a lot to do, but we want to point it, I think, in the right direction.
Question, Chair?
Yes.
In your comments, you mentioned something about the acting mayor being able to convene the committee if it was needed, or the mayor when he comes back. My curiosity about that is that happens at a regular council meeting, correct?
No, I don't believe the appointment of a standing committee by the mayor or the acting mayor requires a council meeting. I think the mayor or the acting mayor has the ability to do that and to tell council after it's done. But the corporate officer could correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you, Chair. Essentially, the acting mayor stands in the shoes of the mayor. So the acting mayor would have the same powers as the mayor under both the charter and our procedure bylaw, and would have the ability to call a standing committee if they so choose. Yeah, that's essentially the question, I believe. So,
Well, except for does it happen at a meeting?
Does it have to be at a meeting?
yeah. Yes, it should take place, must take place in a meeting.
I'm sorry.
In a council meeting, sorry.
My ears. Santa's getting old. I didn't hear what you said.
So I'm saying that, yes, it should take place in a council meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I've just lost my agenda for the moment. So in today's revised agenda. Sorry for the delay, folks. I've got it here, so we're not done yet, though. RCMP contract cost sharing interim chief financial officer. Would you like to review what we've got before us on the interim, the RCMP
Yes.
contract cost sharing?
Through the chair, I couldn't address this topic as I wrote the report.
If I could, I'd just like to ask the staff maybe to take the agenda down off our screen so we can see the speaker. There we go. Thank you. Now we can all see you.
Okay, thank you and good evening. So the city is in receipt of a letter from the Assistant Deputy Minister, Director of Policing and Law Enforcement Services, indicating that it's likely that the city of Powell River will move from a 70% cost sharing for the RCMP contract to 90% based on a census that will be taking place in 2026. As we can see in the letter, the 2024 population for Powell River is 14,937. So we don't need much of a change to reach the threshold of 15,000, which would put us in the category of having to pay the 90% cost for the RCMP contract as opposed to the 70%. So should the consensus in 2026 indicate that the city of Powell River is above the threshold, we will, starting in April 1st of 2027, be subject to the additional cost sharing. So in the report, it indicates that the estimated impact of that is approximately $1 million, which equates to a 3.73% property tax impact. And that we do have an RCMP reserve in place intended to mitigate the impact of the increased costs. And the balance of that reserve is about $1.1 million that is projected in 2027. So staff are recommending that council that we put in draft 2 of the 5-year financial plan, the impact of this change in the contract from 70% to 90%, since it's very likely that this will occur. And so that in draft 2, we would have a strategy for dealing with the increase in this very large cost.
Are you finished, CFO?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, you have a question, Councillor Elliott.
I do. Thank you, Chair. So, Mr. CFO, the strategy you speak of is to kind of estimate how much reserves we would use when in what parts of the 5-year plan, and how much we would need to pay in additional taxes, and how we would do that to both refurbish the reserves and deal with the increased cost. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, yes.
I don't like it.
Councillor Suscott.
Thank you, Chair. This is a little dismaying, actually. I think the previous information up until your final report, Mr. Bjorgard, gave me the impression that we weren't going to have to address this until 2031, and I think that information was based on the most recent census that was done. So obviously there's some new information that the province has come across to send us this letter and give us figures that I certainly wasn't aware of before now. And, you know, it's pretty interesting to add to the rest of our fiscal challenges that we're going to be facing after Christmas. But can you or can anyone here speak to why suddenly we're facing population numbers that I don't think any of us expected based on previous information? I don't know if that's a question that can be answered, but it sure was a surprise to me.
Go ahead, CFO.
Through the chair, I'll try to briefly answer that. I think that the previous reports were going based on the best information they had at the time, that the threshold would be exceeded in 2031. But the BC stats people have recently updated the population estimates, and they do indicate that the population in Powell River has accelerated quite a bit. So now we have the best information we have, and we're trying to act upon that information.
Thank you.
Isaacson.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a quick note to let everyone know, tell your friends to move to town after 2027, please. So a quick question on the reserve funds that we've been putting aside for this eventuality. I just want to make sure I've got it right. The projected balance is not going up 2026, 27 to 28. Is that because we, as part of our 5-year plan to mitigate the impacts of the mill decrease in taxation, we're reducing, we may be, if we pass the budget, reducing our contributions to reserves, including this reserve, and that's why it's stagnant for the next couple of years? Or is there a different reason?
Through the chair, that is correct. But now that this information is available, we will be looking at how we can reverse that.
Yeah.
And increase the amount going to the RCMP reserve.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, not great information. Everything is going to hit us pretty hard over in 27 and 28. And it's just, I think this is an example, you know, the next council that gets elected next fall is going to come in and they're going to inherit things that they did not control or decide over, but are just realities of financial pressures facing the community. It's going to be really challenging in 27, 28. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Not too often I get to leverage past experience while sitting at this table, but I was fortunate enough to actually work on the 2021 census and so spend some time looking at the numbers afterwards. So I'm curious actually, because this report, the BC government list shows us at 14,392 in 2021, but the census, and they actually referenced the census at that time, but the census in 2021 puts us at 13,943, so 400 difference. And that number was 6% higher than it was in 2016. So, which was, and I know the previous 2 decades, I think we only had a fluctuation of about 1% in population. So the last census was about 6%, and it wouldn't surprise me if we were about 6% or more moving forward. But even if we were 6% of the 13.9 from 5 years ago, that would only still put us at 14.7. So I'm not opposed to saving for this reserve. We know that it's going to come eventually, but I am curious, I guess, whose number do we go by? Is it the province of BC or is it the Census Canada number? Like who makes that determination since we're getting 2 different numbers?
Through the chair.
I've got 2 hands up. Got the CA. Everybody's waving at each other. CAO, did you want to answer that question?
Thanks, Chair. I'll defer to the interim CFO. I'm sure his response will be similar.
Thank you.
Yeah, the ultimate authority will be the 2026 Canada-wide census that will occur. So that will be the ultimate authority on what the population of Powell River is, and which will determine the cost sharing.
Councillor Pong.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My first question has just been answered. 2026 is the crucial period when that over 15,000 would be confirmed if it happens. My second question is, we have had a healthy RCMP reserve over the last few years because of some staff not involved in the full complement of our force. Is that going to be a continuing situation where we're saving money each year on the RCMP budget?
Through the chair, history has shown that they haven't been able to fulfill all of the complement at the RCMP. However, the commander and the chief indicates that they are trying to ramp up. But if there are savings that is generated from the contract, for example, in 2025, that money would be directed to build up the reserve.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's my questions. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Elliott.
One more question. So I too was noticing what Councillor Almeida noticed, and that is the Canada-wide census population for 2021 was quite a bit low, was 13,943, which is not the same as what's in the letter from the province. If during the census of 2026, it indicates that we are not quite 15,000, how is the time frame between that census and the next census handled? Because if we're not over, we're going to be fairly close, right, to that level. Is that an indicator that they'd have to wait another 4 years to definitively figure that out, or can they use an average of increased population to have that happen somewhere in between those census?
Through the chair, my understanding is they would have to wait till the following census.
Okay, thank you.
Got my name on the list here, and I remember the 2021 census, and we found the data on our plates sometime in 2022. So the 2026 census is coming up, but we won't have the numbers from the 2026 census until 2027, which is the logic, I believe, in the possibility of our share increasing in 2028. That, I think, the package that we've got that suggests we should prepare for that happening in 2028 makes a lot of sense. Because if we prepare and it doesn't happen, we're going to be happy, smiley people. And if we don't prepare and it does happen, we're going to be unhappy and unsmiley. So preparing makes a lot of sense to me. That doesn't mean that there's nothing else we can do. Okay. There has been discussion at the Union of BC Municipalities over the last couple of years, because we're not the only small community that's coming to that 15,000 population cutoff, where we're going to see a big step in contributions to the RCMP. And lobbying in the provincial and federal government to ease that off so it doesn't increase as sharply is something that I think we should take on as a city that just might feel the sharp end of that happening to us. We would have to start lobbying for that at the next UBCM. Fortunately, we have one coming up in 2026, just before the election. So we'll get to go and take motions there and talk to them. And that's the other thing is, there we go. I think it just makes sense to prepare for whatever you're warned. And I also just heard the other sign of hope, I think, as I was walking out the door, I was listening to the TV news, and it was saying that Canada just this year, for the first time in anybody's memory, has seen a reduction in population that nobody expected and is not covered in this letter, because that's, somebody doing a study and realizing that with a lot of non-residents being required to leave the country, that the population has actually decreased in a surprising way, like it hasn't done before. So this might not come to pass in 2028, but I still think it's wise to prepare for it and make sure we have the room in case it does. Anybody else? Councillor Alameda.
Just move the motion. I move that the draft 2026 to 2030 5-year financial plan include the financial impact of the change in RCMP contract cost sharing from 70% to 90% starting in 2027, estimated at approximately $1 million in 2027, including a strategy for phasing in the financial impact.
Seconder for that. Councillor Southcott. Any discussion? Councillor Southcott?
Actually, it's another question, because I support the motion, but this is one of the reserve funds that we can transfer money from by council decision, is it not?
Through the chair, that is correct. You could transfer funds from or to the reserve.
Thank you.
Elliott.
Over the last number of years that I've been here, we have sometimes increase the contingency of our CMP to help address chronic understaffing due to leaves of various types to give flexibility to recruiting extra members at the RCMP. I understand we're doing better in that regard now, and I'm thinking as a way to handle some of this, could we also propose having less of a contingent of RCMP should we have to go to the 90%, and what would that entail?
Through the chair, it's always council's option annually to look at the number of authorized members at the RCMP and to request a change to those authorized members because of cost impacts that the city is facing.
And is that something we would need a separate motion to contemplate in the plan, or would that be one of the strategies you might look at?
Yeah, that would be something I think that should be discussed as part of draft 2 as to one of the possible mitigating factors for this.
And to look at that as options in draft 2, do we need to direct that, or do you provide that as part of your report for draft 2 so that we could see the differences?
Thinking about it, it would be good if council would formally direct staff to look at that option.
Thank you, CFO.
Okay, so on the motion in front of us, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried unanimously. Councillor Elliott.
I'd like to make a motion for staff, or for the council to direct staff to also include in draft 2 strategies to mitigate the change to 90% that may include adjusting authorized numbers of RCMP members.
Councillor Elliott, do you think, since that's not on tonight's agenda, hasn't been on anybody's agenda?
It's part of this agenda item.
I'm wondering if you could write a motion for our next council meeting, bring it to the draft 2 budget meeting, deal with it then.
I disagree. It's part of this agenda item and the discussions coming out of it.
It is part of this agenda.
It's absolutely part of this.
I think it's a new item, Council.
I'd like a ruling.
I think it's a new item.
I disagree.
It's fine.
You can challenge
the
the
chair
chair.
if you
I
want.
challenge the chair.
So Councillor Elliott suggests that the new item that she brought up is not a new item that isn't on the agenda. It's part of the previous one. And I ask if the chair will be sustained. If you agree with me, say yes. If you don't, say no. Will the chair be sustained? Yes or no? Yes. All those in favor of sustaining the chair?
We raising it.
No, there isn't any discussion. That's the way it works.
You said stating or
Vote
raising.
to suspend, in which case your motion is out of order. You can vote not to. Those who want to sustain the chair. 1. Those who do not. 3. Okay. Your motion is in order. Go ahead and make it.
Thank you. It's very similar to the motion we passed. It's just in addition to including the adjustments in the 5-year plan, we would also include options that might include changing the numbers of RCMP contingencies as part of the strategies for going to 90%. And if that's not clear, I could work with staff to make it clear.
If staff can provide us that motion on the screen.
In draft 2.
Have a seconder for the motion? Alameda. Councillor Elliott, do you want to speak on that?
Yes, just as I had asked questions about this very topic of our CFO, it would just allow, as part of the strategy in draft 2, council to see what kinds of changes in numbers might also do as part of that strategy for impacts that might come when we are at 90%. I know that some of our decisions to increase our contingency numbers to more than what we needed had to do with maintaining enough boots on the ground when we had a lot of leaves happening, and setting aside a budget for that higher contingency might not be affordable when we were at 90%. And so I'd like to see those numbers and what those options look like when we're looking at draft 2. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. To be sure whether I want to support this or not, I need to ask Mr. Bjorgaard's question, and that is this motion specifically what you were referring to? This doesn't seem to be exactly what you were suggesting. I thought you were suggesting something a little more broad, and that is that you could look at options or something to that effect. So that's my question.
Through the chair, I think this motion covers what I was asking for. It mainly looks at the impact of reducing the RCMP complement and how that could partially impact the increase in costs.
Thank you.
Councillor Alameda.
Thank you, Chair. I anticipate that we might get these numbers and decide not to make a change, or once we discuss things with the staff sergeant, but at the same time, we have to be willing to look under all possible rugs to see what we might be able to do to save some funds. So I'm not opposed to this.
Anyone else? Councillor Palm.
Yes, Sir Chair. It's reason I voted to sustain the chair is I think he was correct. This is a budget discussion, and we have a number of meetings coming up on the budget in the new year. We have time for our staff to do the work and bring this forward. We don't need it here tonight. Disappointed to see this brought forward before Christmas. We have many things to consider going forward on a budget level. So I will not be supporting this motion tonight. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Councillor Palm is against. Motion carries. So I think the next item on the agenda is number 14, committee reports. Harbor Users Advisory Committee meeting held November 5th, 2025. Councillor Palm.
Yes, first of all, Chair, I'll just note that this is a meeting that took place on November 5th. We have had a subsequent meeting this month, and I'm going to report on the November 5th minutes that are before you. First of all, I just want to mention the members of your Harbor Working Advisory Committee have done a lot of work over the last 2 years. I just want to name them quickly by name. Mr. Rob Bombardier, Mr. Ken Koba, Mr. Fraser Martinick, Mr. Terry Norwald, Mr. Jim Parsons, Mr. Sasha Van Kessel, Mr. Cam Wilson, Mr. Jesse McDonald, and a regular member that was not at this meeting from the Coast Guard. Doing some very fine work, and I appreciate all their input in regards to our harbors. So there are a couple of things that need to be brought up here tonight so that council is fully aware of recent developments. First of all, under reports, we have a potential restructuring of Harbor Users Advisory Committee being proposed. And this came about in regards to discussions in October. And just saying that the way present makeup of the committee, which is a committee of council, is not serving the committee as I'm not going to say thoroughly, but as it was intended to hopefully get things done. It's just very cumbersome the way we have to make motions to go to council back and a lot is lost in translation in that regard. And we're looking for a way or an option to deal with certain items without all the political steps that we have to go through. So that was the reason that that was brought forward for discussion. And I'm happy to say that staff brought us something to consider this past month. I won't say any more on that at this point because it's still going forward. Under unfinished business that night, we had a satisfaction survey from this past summer presented in terms of local harbor users, and there will be more information coming forward to the committee in that regard in the future. Under new business that night, this is very important for council to know. There was through Small Craft Harbors has done a thorough investigation of our dock down at the Westview Harbor, which is the dock that is adjacent to our Wharfinger office. When you pull your vehicle onto the ferry, it's on the left-hand side. That's where the office is. That dock that's used with a crane on it is in high demand during prawning season and when commercial vessels are in need. So that is the dock that has been pretty well condemned, and we're not the only dock in the area that's been condemned. Lunda's also been condemned, and there is a massive number of docks throughout the province and the coast that have been condemned. So Small Craft Harbors has got a lot of money to put out to rebuild what's out there on our coastline. So they're taking this on, but in the interim, I just want to assure we've had great discussions at the table in terms of making sure that our commercial fleet is going to be looked after this coming spring, especially in prawn season and whatnot, coming up with contingency plans so that they can do the fine work that they do and the economy can still be supported. And I thank our staff for looking at all those options and working with Small Craft Harbors to come up with solutions to that, because it's not going to be rebuilt overnight. I can assure you of that. There was another couple of items on the report, and they're just small items, so I'm not going to get into those items. If you want any further reference, you can look on our website. Thank you, Chair. That's it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Councillor Baum and the committee? Don't see any hands. Thank you for your report, Councillor Baum. Next item, we have introduction of late items. There are none. There is an introduction of a notice of motion on the agenda for the next council meeting. And that's public clarification time. Subject to the rules of conduct set out in section 11 of the council procedure bylaw, members of the public may ask questions to clarify items discussed during the meeting for a maximum of 2 minutes. Questions may not be asked about a public hearing where the bylaw has not been adopted, defeated, or abandoned, nor any of the other matters listed in section 19.8 of the council procedure bylaw. So, do you have any questions? Mr. Glinski? Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Bombardier.
Thank you, Chair and members of council. I've got a couple of questions. My name is Rob Bombardier. In regards to the Pickleball Association, the piece of land at the complex, I heard numerous times from council and from staff that that piece of land is not suitable. But nobody has really addressed as to why. Nobody has said why. That is my question, because that piece of land was originally put forward by council at the time to have a track built on it. It is a flat piece of property in the heart of the town that also was shown in the last presentation by the Pickleball Association that if we wanted to build a brand new complex at the same size that we currently have, would also fit on that piece of property. So I'm curious as to know why that piece of property is not suitable.
I'm going to ask the staff, because it's a staff report. It says it's unsuitable, so I'm going to give staff an opportunity to reply to the answer.
Through the chair, that piece of property may, excuse me, may be suitable in the future. We just don't know what it's suitable for, what it's not suitable for. Ideally, we would have a recreation master plan completed for that site as per one of the recommendations in ERIS report. We do not have a current plan for that site, and from a strategic perspective, we would like to plan that site out to its optimal through a recreation master plan.
Do you have another question?
I do. This is in regards to the fire chief's presentation. Is there no means of recouping any funds from BC Ambulance Service with the work that we do with them? I'm all for saving money through, cuts and stuff like that, but we also do look at cuts and services to the people of Paul River. So is there no means of recouping funds through the BC Ambulance Service with the work that we do with them when requested by them?
The AO or the fire chief has an answer.
Through the chair and council, the first responder program is voluntary. Municipalities opt into the program, and we've been trying since 1990 to recoup soft costs. We now have an ability to recoup soft costs, soft supplies. There is no ability to recoup wages, wear and tear on vehicles, the defibrillators, overtime incurred for backup vehicles, that type of thing. So I know it's been tried with other departments and through UBCM, but I don't believe there's a way to recoup it. They just indicate it's a voluntary program. You can opt out if you want to.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott, do you have a question for?
I could probably defer to Councillor Southcott, but I was going to say soft supply costs are things that like oxygen or bandages or things like that, that there's no actual real money to recoup the running of our fire service on responses that are primarily the jurisdiction of BC Ambulance.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And this is related, but it's specific to the regional district, and the fire departments in the regional district are all volunteer. But the province, BC Emergency Health Services, and the regional fire department, the province has required an agreement between the province and the regional districts for the regional districts to commit to more to the response service that that has been provided for many years, and the RD board resolved to not provide that, to refuse to provide that agreement until there is some communication at the very least with the province exactly addressing what Mr. Bombardier has asked for, because it's been an outstanding thorn in the side of services all across the province for a long time. But this is a debate that has, various tentacles to it, and it will probably go on. But this is a pretty substantial step that this regional board has taken to further that exact point and to make a point. It may not go anywhere, but because the regional fire departments are going to keep providing first responder services, but they're not going to have an agreement in place, and until there's at least communication from the province. So, something's happening, which I really appreciate happening.
Councillor Palm.
Thank you, Chair. Just for further clarification for the public, has this request for RD to get on board with costs come forward to UBCM in the past or ABICC and has been voted down?
There have been multiple resolutions to UBCM over the years. There have been all sorts of different levels of agreements. Functionally, it actually worked, I think, a bit better when I was the chief here because we might not have done everything according to what was expected, but we're out here, so we get to kind of bend the rules a little bit. And there's ways to work together, but still it's that underlying expectation of regional local government to fill in gaps that, if they're not looked after by the province, then they just kind of widen out and again, we're expected to fill those gaps. And so it's got to be reasonable. There's a relationship that needs this continual tension that's gone on for years now.
Yep. Any other questions from the public?
Good evening, Chair and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Roger Whitaker, citizen and resident of Powell River. And I forgot my glasses, so I hope I can read my questions. I got many questions about tonight. We're going to try and keep it straightforward. In the discussions about warming shelter, I heard nothing about the gym at VIU. I heard nothing about the police station and the great big room they have there. I heard nothing about Wildwood Fire Hall, nothing about the therapeutic riding. They have a huge riding space there. I know that's in the RD if we're searching for a place. So why don't we hear anything about that in the discussion? If we're going to go and look for a place and shame those who are already active in the community trying to do their best to provide spiritual help, why not go look for all the people that are providing something for the community that have large spaces? That's number one. Number two is, why does this council constantly want, oh, yes, sir?
I'm not going to ask everybody to remember until you finished your speech about what all the questions were. So your first question was your list of possible buildings where a shelter could be housed. I'm going to ask staff if they have an answer to whether they considered any of those.
Yes, through the chair, we are looking at other sites, including the Wildwood Fire Hall. The distance is a bit of a challenge. Part of what we're working with is working with the group that would be responsible for providing the service and making sure it's a site that would work for them as well.
Second question is, why does this council constantly want to shut everything down when prices go up? Do you know in 1977, property taxes doubled in this town? Doubled because of the complex? Doubled. Yeah, wow, crazy, eh? And yet it's filling the pool, shut the rinks down, cut the police officers down. Even if you sent 10 of the police officers home, you wouldn't even save $1 million. Like, really, this cut out the services has, I don't understand. Why does this council cut everything away and then gives themselves benefits? Why do you do that? That's my question. Thank you.
But what are you asking about cutting?
Pardon me, sir?
You're asking why is council constantly cutting things away? What are you talking about cutting?
Well, tonight we heard we're going to cut police officers if there's more than 15,000 people. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we heard we're going to cut down and shut the pool down and different aspects of the complex. The swimming pool beside the French school is already filled in for whatever reason. I have no idea why that happened. But, that's what the councils do here, is they cut away things rather than seek other ways. I'm asking why.
Out of the things you've spoken about, council hasn't made a decision to cut any of those things. They're all things that have been discussed at different times. Council hasn't made a decision to cut any of those. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. So the putting information about lowering RCMP contingent, the intention is that none of our RCMP go home. We have never actually had a full contingent of RCMP. And one of the issues we were trying to solve when we raised those contingency levels was not to necessarily increase the overall force that we had, but was to give them the ability to recruit new positions because they had folks on long-term leave that couldn't be at work and they weren't allowed to backfill any of those. And so the amount of RCMP we have in our community is not the same as our contingents. And so it was an exercise in trying to give our RCMP the ability to recruit new positions when they had a lot of people on leave. And looking at those options isn't a decision to cut that. It's to look at whether that's possible under the circumstances today without impacting our people. But I was part of the conversations originally to increase those contingencies. And we've always been trying to risk manage the concept of having the ability to recruit without, you know, actually meeting that full contingency. And it's been an ongoing discussion for as long as I've been here. And so it isn't an intention to send people home. The intention would be to have on the books a different contingency that we have to budget for. May or may not help. I just wanted to see those options.
So Scott, you have an answer for me.
Actually, I have a question for Mr. Whitaker, and that is, you know, on the basis of we can have what we can pay for, what we can sustain, we have to pay to sustain it. You weren't suggesting we do the same thing as was done in 1977, were you?
What I'm asking for is for council be less so quick as to look at the services they offer. Here's the dichotomy. Zunga bus, we must have. Must have. Well, hundreds of thousands of dollars go out, 2 buses sit because we can't get a driver and blah, 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 blah. We must have benefits for every councillor. Must have.
No.
And then all that gets voted in. And then as soon as there's oh dear, we're going to have to pay a little more for something. Well, we better shut the rink down. We better take RCMP away. Is there any way we can do this? And even with electric vehicles, electricity costs money. The price I have an electric vehicle, the price to charge it has gone up 3 times since I bought it. So there's these things that we think were cost saving. And I don't want to get into a long debate. We're past the 2 minutes, but you have entered into a discussion, Councillor Southcott. And the thing is these things keep getting tossed out.
Sorry, Roger, that was a yes or no question, actually.
Okay, I'm going to just call order here. You've had more than your time to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Several, and they've been answered. All of the councillors are available to talk to you when you want to have a debate about the issue, and they can do that outside of the meeting. So
there's public places, Chair. Thank you.
Sorry to cut you off, but we've got to draw the line somewhere, Councillor Southcott. Any other questions from the public? Councillor Baum, you have a question for us?
For adjournment, Your Worship, I just want to say that at one time in this chamber at this time of year, prior to the break, we always had an opportunity to say a few words to the public regards to the holiday season. I'm wondering if you will entertain me the opportunity to do so this year.
I'll give everybody a chance to do that. We'll start with you, Councillor Baum.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Worship. So I usually make it brief, but after serving in this seat for a number of years now, this may be my last opportunity to do this. And whatever happens down the road, I just want to say how grateful I am for the opportunity you have provided me to serve this community and all of you out there. It's been a pleasure, and it's something that I will take with me till the end. And in terms of the holidays, I hope you all have a very joyous and wonderful time with your families. My family this year is coming to town, which is not an easy task for them on the ferries, as we all know. And I'm going to enjoy some time off with them. And I hope you do the same. So I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Elliott.
Thank you, Santa.
Oh.
I want to thank our chair today, or Councillor Dowd, or acting your worship, for being so festive and dressing as Santa. I think it's wonderful. He does something every year, usually a hat, but this year he's got the whole suit, so that's really fun. I myself am going to go see my mother, which is probably the last Christmas I'll ever spend with her because her health isn't great. And so I hope everybody spends their Christmas with people they love and cherish every moment of it, because you never know what's happening in the future. So bless all of you. Have a wonderful Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year.
Thank you, Santa. I'm very grateful to be back in this town after years away. Every day I am. I'm grateful for how connected we are in this community. I have deep faith that we can find our way through the challenges and looks like crises that we face together. And I just think that this season is the time when it reminds me the most of what a great community this is and how amazing it is to be here for us all. You know, whether we all agree or not, we're dynamic and we work together, and that is just so amazing. And I just really wish everyone the very best of the season. And I hope we all have a very happy new year. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott. I had to do it, didn't I?
You were so
You almost
close.
made it through the whole night.
Your earrings, though.
Thank you. I tried to dress up a little bit today for the season. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I hope that everyone has an opportunity to find some peace and some comfort, some warmth, and a bit of connection. Thank you.
Councillor Almeida.
Thank you, Chair. I wish the entire community a wonderful holiday season, whether it's here or elsewhere, or if you're separate from your family, that you get a chance to connect with them in some way or form during that time. And wish everyone the best for 2026.
I just want to say, I didn't change before coming to the meeting today, believe it or not, because I have another job that I do sometimes. And today I was Santa Claus for the Christmas lunch at James Thompson Elementary. And it's a job, they thank me for going there sometimes, but I actually love to go there because I get to talk to every kid in the school for a little bit of quiet time together. And it's amazing what kind of people those are. And they are the future of our community, the future leaders of the community. It's a diverse place. We speak 4 languages. We speak English, French, Iahausian, and sign language, all at the school. You know, lots of the kids that I saw today came with a big person holding their hands, and I asked them if they were a brother or a sister, and they said, no, I'm a big buddy. They have big buddies to help the people that have trouble getting around in the school. It's that kind of an inclusive and an inspiring place to go. And I thought if I can wear a Santa Claus suit and go there, which they expect, they think it's pretty exciting. They want to know where I park my sleigh. But it's great. And that is the future of our community. They're happy people. They're looking forward to a good future. And it was an honor to be there and talk to those kids, as it is to see all the people of the community and the council members. I encourage people in the future to dress up a little more. You know, I think we used to see more ugly sweaters at council meetings in around December, but I hope everybody has a great Christmas season, and we'll see you back at the beginning of the next year. And we'll try to muddle our way through making these decisions as best we possibly can. Sometimes we might make a mistake. So here we go. Councillor Elliott.
So with Santa, all my grandkids go to, except for the ones who are in high school, go to James Thompson. And my curiosity, what are the kids telling you they want this Christmas?
What do I want to say?
Santa Claus confidentiality.
You
he
know,
can't
a lot of times, just
Just some themes that you're hearing.
the ones that really stuck out for me,
Okay.
and they are different. I had one little fella, he told me, first I saw him, he said, I remember you from last year, and I told you all the things I wanted, and I got some of them. I thought that was pretty impressive. Then when I was giving out candy canes, the same guy came back, and he said, I told you before all the things I want. He says, but really, all I really need is for somebody to fix my bike. Another girl came up to me and said her mother was sick. She just wanted her mom to get better. And I gave her a hug. What more can you do? But, you know, that's the kind of thing that people were asking for. And, you know, it was an honor to deal with. Most of them just wanted the candy cane. Some people wanted a hug. Some people wanted to talk to me about exactly what their favorite present was. But those ones, I think, were the ones I was most touched by.
Thank you.
Hopefully they get what they want.